Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome to day 1 of build week. This week I am going to upload one video every single day and it's going to show the progression of me making this level, trippy. Today's episode is going to be me making the layout and the gameplay for it. While I am building this layout, you will be able to tell how far I am into making it because I've got a background trigger right here that is fading to this color of blue on a 65-second fade time, so as the level goes on it will get more and more blue. This is just a temporary thing, just so you can tell how far along I am into making the layout without me having to pause and go, oh look, it's so many seconds. First things first, alpha trigger, very beginning, group 1, 0 fade time, 0 opacity. Then I'm going to put a blue pad right here. This is going to go on group 1, and I'm also going to put a blue portal up here too on group 1. Thinking of having a custom ground on this level somewhere. I'm going to listen for when the music comes in. Right there. So I'm going to make this group 2, and I'm also going to put a move trigger down here that has this block on a constant lock on player X with just 9999 move time, so it never ends. And here we have our custom ground. When I do come to make the actual custom ground design, I'll just stick this on group 1, and there you go, it's invisible. I could just put a ground right here where the cube is sitting. But for now, I'm going to keep it off group 1 just so I can see what I'm doing. Nice jump pattern right there, good music sync too in my opinion. Just going to fill this with spikes again. We've already got some decent structures going on. Quite minimalistic up above, as you can see there's no objects up here, but that'll come later. Just realised that I haven't mentioned what difficulty I'm going for. This is going to be a 7-star level, because if I just go into my level page right here, you will see that I don't have a single 7-star rated yet. Just putting a basic transition right here as the music eases into this part. Ship section, and I'm also going to toggle group 2 on the edge of here. There we go. This makes it so that when we fly through here, that block disappears. Once this is decorated, the custom ground will probably move off with some sort of easing instead of just being toggled like that. But for now it's useful because this block is actually going to be invisible when we put the ground spike in. In this ship section, I want to diversify the structures a little bit, so I'm going to add some of these little slopes, and there's going to be these flat spikes on the edges of them. And there they are. There are the spikes right there. I'm going to space it out from that other block right there. That looks pretty decent to me. I'm also going to put a slope right here that pushes you down onto this block. And this is going to extend outwards. And there's going to be a couple of spikes at the end of here that you have to fly on the roof to avoid. One thing that is very useful to do is to tick this box on the portal right here, and it shows you the boundaries for this game mode. Alright, I've got a dual portal right here, but this block is not centered, so what I'm going to have to do is select all of these blocks, go into the build tab, click on this block, and just move it one up and one right, and there you have it. It's now in the center of the screen. These dual ships will now fall to the bottom at the same rate. Alright, I think I'm done with this ship part now. You're done with the dual part. Here we go. Down, up, down, back through here, fly through here. I'm liking having these symmetrical structures, to be honest. In the middle of the screen, flipped on both sides, and then this transition is pretty simple too. I could just have a portal right up here that you just fall into. I think this structure is pretty interesting, trying to diversify them a little bit. I mean, I haven't actually structured all of these blocks yet, they're not just going to be floating rectangles. But I kind of like having this one big Waluigi shaped piece. Got this idea for gameplay right here, but I'm not sure if you can just jump straight over the pad and just get out of there unscathed. You can, okay, so that's a flaw. Change this halfway across and then put a double. That actually doesn't look too bad. I want to try this flying ball transition from here, because you can get some serious height going through there, and that looks super cool. It makes you feel like you're floating, which is kind of how the song is changing to feel at this part, so I think it's appropriate. Now what I'm trying to do here is make the gameplay feel completely irregular, because the song is changing so much. I want to reflect this in how the level is progressing. So, continuing the same block format right here, where it just snakes down, and then the spikes right here to stop you from doing that. I think this is pretty creative gameplay. I don't think it's that difficult to sight read either. Oh, I'm going to have to put H blocks. H blocks basically allow the player to hit their icon off the top of a block. So right here, I was getting launched through the block because I was using ignore damage, but There we go. Now I actually get launched off the block. Going to move this orb one space upwards, or half a space I should say, just so they don't get hit by the spikes at all, because that would be quite buggy. And then maybe just make a wave section right here. And to ease this transition in, I'm going to need some D blocks, which allows the player to slide. Going to play from 0 once again, just to showcase what I've made so far, and also plan some changes I need to make. So I don't know if you noticed, but in that playtesting right there, I noticed that when the wave falls off a block, the trail looks very awkward. So I'm going to make a required input on the edge of this block, just so that doesn't happen. I guess that looks cool, instead of just having a regular wave format. And then also, I could flip this, and there you go. There is a coin. Let's playtest this. Oh, right, you see, I don't like how high up that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move... That's not the button. I'm going to move this up one, assign it to the next free group, which is 3. I'm going to put a move trigger all the way down here, which sets that down a block. So the wave boundaries are actually based off of this block, but the portal is down here. You see how that's perfectly centered on the screen now? I'm going to break these structures up right here. Ah, there isn't even a structure up here, so I could just have this really open, and then bring a new one in up here. And I want to have some sort of spike format right here. Like so. I think that's kind of original to have just sitting there. It's also doing the symmetrical thing again. I like that. The slope ends here, the slope begins here, and then there's a block in the middle. Cool. D blocks are in. You're going to have to go up and slide on the top or bottom. Nice. I like that. My wave structures will never be this clean ever again. Holy cow. Nice. I'm a really big fan of this wave part. I think I've done this pretty well. Varied all the structures to save it just being a regular corridor. I've also got a break, which is the cube portal right here. Not sure if I want to bring it back into wave after a jump. 40 seconds into the layout and we still haven't used a speed changer. So here is the very first speed changer, the 1.5 times speed changer, and we've also got a UFO portal right here. Gonna bring back these slopes with the spikes on just to make links between different parts in the structuring. There we go. A little bit of this going on. So you got to rest on part of the slope where there's no spikes. Let's just see. That's cool. I like that. I've changed this slope to be longer with less height just to feel a bit more natural going through here. And also this is a lot more open than it used to be with a lot more space, just to stick to the difficulty that we had in mind at the beginning. I'm not sure if this is too enclosed or not still. I'm keeping this same format from earlier with the long structures and kind of tight spaces between. Not sure if this is still too tight for 7-star though. Surely not. I'm doing that classic featured level thing where you put the dots in to tell the player where to jump. Part of me wants to change this to an easy demon, but I never get easy demon. I only ever get medium or insane 9, so I'm just going to scrap that idea. I'm going to make a quick nerf. This portal is going to sit right here instead of being on the floor, just so you can get away with a bit of a smaller jump going into it. I was going to cover this up like so. In fact, I could just extend that down and do that. There you go. This is the benefit of playtesting like this. What if I just swap to ship halfway through? Is this on the same? No. Gonna have to do the classic trick. Gonna swap to a ship. I want the portal to be right here. If I tick this, the boundaries aren't lined up, so I'm going to move it up 1 and have it on group 3, which it already is. So in the editor, it's going to show up right here, but in reality, it's here. That flows pretty well, I think, although it's a bit of an awkward space up here. That's very easily fixed. I just moved the saw. I'm planning on having these as floating rectangles, so to fill up the space, I'm going to put a big snake that runs all the way up here. Alright, so instead of having this so high, I've moved it down 1, created this curvy flying I wanted after the straight fly, down to this portal right here. You go through the cube and it's another flowy sort of orb section. So I've moved this jump down 1 block just so you can get the jump consistently every time, but just in case you don't, there's a slope to stop you falling down. So I think this is pretty consistent, pretty fair gameplay at the moment. Except you can miss that black orb sometimes. I don't know how I'm going to make that. Okay, I've done something cool. If you just jump, you fall through, you have to hit the green orb, and boom, you get across like that. And then it flows towards the end. This portal right here is the 1 minute mark, but I'm taking advantage of the song quietening down towards the end to add a couple more structures that you got to fly through, just to make it a little bit more intense, as these are quite tight spaces. There wasn't much to say while I was making these parts, so I'm just going to play through them now. This is a cube part with lots of gravity portals, very flowy, very uppy downy. This part's pretty cool with the green orb and the yellow portal, and then this part is just a slow ship section that you gotta get through the end. Oh, I'm gonna move that saw just a little bit further out, because if anyone drops down there, they're dead. And there we go, fixed. And I'm gonna play through this one more time, and we've finished the layout. All I've got to do is structure it. Alright, so all that's left to do with this gameplay is structure it, add a couple more structures, for example on the top of this cube section, just to fill up a bit of space. I always get the green line to run all the way through the level, and usually when I structure things, I either watch a YouTube video or listen to something, so I'm going to make this a time lapse, just adding some varied structures on the top and bottom of these, and then also adding in a few to fill in the space. The ship sections are mostly done for that. They just need to be connected to the ground, but other sections like this robot will also need a little bit extra work. I will see you after the time lapse. Alright, I have finished the layout, the gameplay, the structuring. That is the end of this episode. I'm going to showcase the layout right here. Thank you for watching this episode of Build Week. Leave a like and tune in tomorrow if you enjoyed. Have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to day 2 of Build Week. Some tiny little changes have been made since the last day, so I'm going to explain them to you right now. Trip Trippy layout is now a thing. This is a backup of Trip Trippy. Just because I'm going to be doing effects and concepts in this episode, I might need to revert back to the layout if anything goes wrong. So I changed a few things about the gameplay. I've moved this orb. It used to be up here and there used to be a spike right here, but I've moved it down and I've made this a corner block. I've nerfed this flying straight fly by half blocks. As you can see, this is half a block down, this is half a block down. And I've also removed this black orb in the final cube section. Also, here is a little summary of what I did in the structuring speed build. These are just regular structures. They're all on layer 1, so I can differentiate between each part of the layout. Somehow I missed one of these structures. I don't know how to feel about the shape of these. I think they're a little bit weird, mixed in with some regular slopes right here. Then we've just got regular structures in the wave as well, just straight down. We've got some sloped ones in this section. They're all sloped inwards towards the inside of the block. I like that. And then the transition into the cube is just straight. And then there's some really weird corner-ish kind of blocks right here, you'll see. In this part, I might end up making these glitch on and off so you can really see how these structures are made, because I really like the look of them, how they're all really erratic and strange. And then the last part, I don't really know what I was doing. I was just making weird connections between the edges of the blocks, just all the way around the top and bottom. Cool. That's basically what I did in the structuring speed build. It took about 40 minutes. Last thing to note, I put a background effect off trigger. I'll show you the difference of that on and off in a second. This is background effect off, and this is background effect on. You notice that there's particles there now. I turned them off because it often makes the display a lot cleaner. Now the last thing I'm going to do with all of these blocks is I'm going to select all. I'm going to go into edit group, don't fade, don't enter. I'm also going to turn off a glow, and I think that makes it look a lot cleaner in the playing process. It just makes the outlines of these blocks a lot sharper, stops any overlapping glow issues where there's a line on the edge of this block and the edge of this block that makes a really thick glow line that I don't want. Playing one last time to see if there's any discrepancies in the design. God damn, this wave part looks a lot cleaner now. There was a lot of overlapping glow in that part. That was the worst part for it. I think it was due to the corner pieces on the slopes and also the blocks on the inside. Yeah, I think these are my favorite structures, to be honest. I really like these. They're unlike anything I've ever made before. And here's the last chip. I'm going to drop down. There we go. Nice. Enough yabbering. Let's get into the effect process. Just going to be a strip. Doesn't have to be very long. Just in the player's range of sight. Just like that. And we're going to move this right to the very edge. And this is going to be B4-2. Also going to make this a new group, and that's going to be 4. Alright, it's on layer 3. It's linked. I can click anywhere and it'll select the whole object. Now I'm going to set this to color 9, which is always black for me. Depends how you do it, but I always make color 9 black, color 1 white, 10 black blending, and 8 50% opacity black. I'm going to copy this, up this by 1, up this by 2, and that's going to be a process that I'm going to repeat 5 more times. Here we have our different layers. The one on the right is the highest and the one on the left is the lowest. I'm going to quickly turn off link controls for a second so I can select this rectangle and just extend it out to the edge of the display. Relink that. I'm going to quickly select all of these once again, and this should fill up a decent part of the screen so I can use it as a mask. So it's going to lock to player X right on this square where my mouse is. I want it to end just a little bit after, so I'm going to stick it right here. Then I'm going to copy this, I'm going to put it on a new layer, which I think is layer 9. I'm going to check myself. There we go. I'm going to swap this around, and I'm just going to move it to about here, where this display ends. So all of the left-hand side of the screen will be covered up by this mask when it's above the ground spikes. It's the same mask on the top and bottom, but it's flipped on one side. If I put a move trigger right here with 4, lock to player X, and just 99999, the whole left of the screen will be covered up, I believe. I've lined up these gradients too, just to have them on opposite sides of a 2x2 block. There we go. I'm putting a strip down here, which is going to be on B4 layer 3. Don't fade and don't enter. If I playtest the level right here, you will see that it disappears on the top and appears on the bottom at different rates. With that strip gotten rid of, let's make the custom ground. I'm using editor layer 10 and 11 to make the custom ground right here. It's literally just going to be a bunch of 5 long and 3 long pillars next to each other. Although I will have to set these to a new group, so when the player falls at the beginning, they're not just going to hit this structure. Toggle 5, and then as soon as you hit the portal, that's going to untoggle 5. That's going to be epic. So you can fall, then the ground appears, and it's all going to fade in around about here. Alright, so focused on layer 10. We're going to make this B4 1, color 2. I'm going to set color 2 to a light yellow. I've changed my mind. I want it at 5 and 7, just because of the way it scales. I think it's a lot nicer. That is 7 long. That is 5 long. I'm going to copy this, and we're going to scale it down to 0.95, and we're going to change the hue by 30, the brightness by 0.08, and the layer by 2. I mean, the Z order by 2, my bad. Right until we get to Z order 11, because that is the desirable spot where the mask stops working. Alright, just like that, we've done one of these. Here's the beauty of me having done this one already. I've selected all of these lines, I've put them on this layer with this extra pillar right here. I can have link controls enabled, link this, copy this value of this line, and give it to this line. Then I can copy the values of this line right here, copy paste this, scale it down, and paste the values, and just like that we have already formatted all of these lines on this pillar as well. Alright, here is the beauty of this. I can just copy paste this over and over again in a straight line, and my ground effect is already finished. Okay, maybe I should move these on a slow movement, because this is a lot of objects. If I just select all of this, that's like 2k object. I'll stick this square right here on 1. Right before I playtest, I'll go select all. Just gonna quickly, don't fade, don't enter, and ignore, nope, not ignore damage. What's the button? Glow. Glow, there we go. And there you have it. Look at that ground effect. I think that looks quite beautiful. We're going to make 5 sets of each pillar on the screen, and then we're just going to move all of these. Alright, so I have given all of these pillars the same group 6, and all 6 does is move them 600 blocks to the right in 12 seconds on ease in out. Let's see how it's looking in normal mode. I think this is looking pretty sweet. I'm really liking how this feels so far. Alright, I am happy with how this is looking so far, so I'm going to apply the same exact thing to some block design. Same as before, I'm just going to copy a strip of lines, take them up here, just so I can very easily copy them onto a block. I've set out 3 blocks right here. One's going to be scaled 75, one's going to be scaled 0.5, and there's going to be a regular one. These 2 blocks are the same size, so if I align them up properly, I can then use this, scale this further down to 0.75 and a 0.5. Then this block right here is the same size as that block on a 0.5 scale. So then I can move this out and scale it to a 0.75, and that is a consistent scaling pattern. I'm keeping them separate for now because I need to rejig the layers. I want the middle of the block to be the brightest, but if I would copy these layers as they are, the smallest block would end up on the bottom due to how the values are set out. Alright, so the colors are all right. I just need to set the Z orders back to how they should be. So the one on the far right should be the lowest, and the one on the far left should be the highest. And there you have it. Nice little block design right there, which I'm going to link and send to editor layer 0 and replace a few blocks with, just to see how it works. I'm not going to fill every block with it just because I need to experiment with it first to make sure I'm happy with it. Oh, they have the moving group that the pillars did. I think that's group 5. I need to go and confiscate that from them. It's group 6 that I need to get rid of. Oh, well, I'm going to have to move this gradient, I believe. Just moving these to get the best possible result out of the masks. I think I nailed it. I think I have finally found the positions that I'm going with. These are no longer in line like I had planned them to be, but I think I'm finally happy with how these look, so I'm going to go and turn on my select filter right here by selecting the custom delete. Having select filter on, then I can freely select the level and make all of these blocks group 1. I'm going to turn this back to the none setting on the delete tab, and I'm going to go select this and copy it on every single block. And I'm planning to brush up on the effects I've made in a future episode, maybe episode 5 or 6. So I don't want to get too ahead of myself. The only thing that's going to be a problem I can see is this slope. But now if I select don't fade, don't enter, and untick the glow again, go and play test, this should look pretty decent. There we go, that is exactly how I want it. Once the spikes are also incorporating this design, I think this is going to look pretty sweet. For this custom ground, I do want to put a black base behind it all to separate it from the other outlines that are on screen. I'm planning to have it move off around about here, so the bottoms of these will be visible. But at the moment you can see that they do overlap, so I do need a base behind these that's going to differentiate this from that. But I think this is great progress to have straight away. I'm thinking maybe what if I make this colour a little bit darker. I'm going to copy it just in case, but I'm going to lower the brightness of it just to see how it affects the look of the level. I feel like it does look a little bit better in this sort of moody colour instead. Okay, so now this is where I toggle group 6 on the edge of the ship portal. I'm also going to preemptively toggle on group 7. I'm going to toggle it off around about here. Maybe this bright instead. Yeah, I think I found the sweet spot, because once I put the blending screen overlay in, all of this colour will be uplifted slightly because it's dark enough. So it will all look filtered once I've done that. This is going to be epic. Alright, so I took this mask right here, put it on this ship section right here, group 7, so it gets toggled on. Alright, center point. Right in the middle of these two guidelines, and also right in the middle of this mask. This is going to be group 8, which will be the moving group, group 9 for the middle, and then this is going to have to be group 8. I can take off 4, and I'm going to put on 10. Okay, so I've got a moving group right here, group 8, and then I have got a rotation trigger that also sits at the exact same time. It's going to be group 10 around group 9, and I wanted to move once, not twice, around for about 12 seconds yet again. Keep that move time consistent from earlier. Okay, all I need to do now is put a start pause here, copy this block right here, replace these with this block that I've copied that has the same values as before. Save the level, gonna go back in just to see how that mask is going to treat it. It's hardly going to treat it. I'm gonna change the easing on this to bounce out actually, just to make it a little bit more varied. That should treat it a bit nicer. I can already see it working in the editor. Let's just go back into preview mode. There we go. They're going big and small, big and small. Not very consistent because of the bounce. I don't like that. I'm toggling the wrong thing. I should be toggling 4. That would make a lot more sense. If I toggle 4, then this might look a bit better. There we go. That's doing how I wanted it to. I knew it wasn't covering the bottom layers properly. Just going to go and copy and paste this exact design from earlier onto these blocks. Wow. Alright, I've carried the design to all the other blocks in the ship section. There's a couple of seams on the left. I don't like how this is looking so far, so I'm going to have to scrap this rotating idea. Alright, call me crazy, but I've moved this mask down to the very bottom of the center circle, and I've flipped it and put it on the ceiling just to see if it works a little bit better. It could work, honestly. It really could work. Okay, I'm a believer in this style. I think this is going to work. I am going to take the plunge and I am going to fill in some other blocks in this section with the same format to see if they look good. Alright, I copied the lines from the other structure that I made earlier, and now I have myself a shrunken cube format, which I'm going to literally spam. Okay, I have officially taken the plunge. I'm going to go and select these outlines right now, make them invisible so that this design doesn't just look cheeks. Please, if this looks good, I'm a genius. Come on. Uh-oh. Okay, I'm removing the groups. Come on, please. If this looks good, I'm a genius. Come on. Oh, I don't know. I really don't know. That seriously could work. That could work. I'm happy. Alright, I'm gonna take this masking effect as a done concept. I'd consider this as done. Once I add more detail, obviously, this is just a done concept. I can move on from this. I can't be the only one who just gets sidetracked when they're trying to playtest a design. Very sidetracked with how ominous this layout is without any color and just the dark grey blocks. It's just very lifeless and dull. Alright, I am going to take a break from this madness because I've spent quite a few hours staring at a couple of lines. I'm going to remove the inside block from all of these masks right here. Then I'm going to move these blocks in. Then I've moved this in a little bit. Then I'm going to have to copy this and put it on layer 9. There we go. I think that's a lot more smooth. I much prefer the way that this looks now. Yeah, I'm going to have to move this a bit further to the right because it's going to be a bit difficult to sight read when it's appearing so closely to the player. Now, what I need to do is copy this and replace it in the big spinning part. Bang, there it is. Then we're just going to remove number 9 from the equation, like so. Then we're just going to paste these values without hitting the center. Don't want the center getting those values. Paste state. And now this whole level should be a lot more smooth. Let's have a look in normal mode. Let's see. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I lost my move trigger and the rotation trigger when I was selecting things. Oh, that's annoying. Oh well. It's not hard to put back. It's literally just a move 8 and a rotation trigger with 10 around 9, I believe. This should be 9. Yep, and this should be 10. Yep, good. Don't change the layer of that, thank you. I'm gonna have to redo the whole thing because I've just realized that I pasted layer 12 to the entire mask when it's supposed to be in layers like 2, 4, 6, 8. It's just, yeah. And now this should be it. Please, I've spent a long time polishing this. There we go. That is so much more clean. If I fill in the rest of these blocks, that's going to look fantastic in my opinion. Especially when I include the pulses and the movement in a later episode. I'm literally just going to keep toggling the move group on each edge. And I'm not going to finish off each concept because this is just an episode about the effects. I'm not trying to make the whole part today. Alright, I'm going to preemptively toggle on group 11 because that's going to be the brand new move. I'm also going to put a move right underneath it just because that is the most efficient thing to do while it's in my brain. Gonna get a snack while I think of what to put underneath that mask. Whoa, it's Wulzy and welcome back to day 3 of build week. It's been a little while since the last time I recorded one of these, so I need to rejig my memory. The last episode we made a scaling effect using 2 different masks for the top and the bottom. As you can see, everything is being obscured at a different rate, and then as we go into the ship section you'll see that I adapted this effect to a rotating background. I really want to put more design in this robot part because I feel like the structures allow it to have a greater variety. You see on the outside you've got this kind of structure, you've got this kind of structure in the middle, and you've also got the bottom, which is 3 different layers, so I could use 3 different blocks just to give the level a bit more variety than it has in the earlier parts because the earlier parts are all obscured by the same black mask. There's not much visible. I've got some ideas, so this is going to be very interesting. At the bottom of the screen I have prepared 6 different layers for the vortex effect that I want to put in this part. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the highest up on the left. This is Z order 11. The one on the right is Z order 1, so it'll be at the lowest. I'm going to scale it up to 2 to keep it nice and relatable for everyone watching. I don't want to use scale hacks because not everyone has those. Group 11 for moving, group 12 for the bottom half. Extend it upwards 2. And this will be given group 13. Okay, so to make the other layers, all I need to do is copy the block from the next level down. Need to copy this, paste the values, up the layer by 1, and redistribute the top and bottom group. Remember that they're going to be going up by 1 each time, so it'll be 14 and 15. Just getting on to the last layer right now. It's going to be on layer 8, and I need to give them the top and bottom values yet again. They look a little bit discolored, but that's just because there's so many layers on top at the moment. In the vortex, they'll actually look a different color. As you can see, the actual color is this. I didn't even toggle this properly. 11 needs to be toggled way back. There we go. Now it gets toggled on. Alright, now all we need to do is make sure that the even number, which is on the bottom, moves downwards. I'm gonna say by 100 on ease 10 maybe. I don't know how long this part is. And I'm gonna copy the move trigger and put the top one above the bottom one, just so it's a lot easier to select. Alright, so I have extended the move triggers to cover every group in the vortex, and as you can see in playtest mode, it's looking pretty swell. So this is literally just color 2, this end value right here, the bottom layer of the vortex. Kind of want to introduce group 3, which is a copy of color 2. Then, right in line with the ball portal, I could put a color trigger that just fades it to black on a 0.25 fade time. I think that could also be pretty sweet. Give it a bit more variation too, instead of just having a big block color. Don't know how I feel about that because you can still see the bottom layer. I think it might just be best if I fade color 2 to black and then just reset this to 2 and then reset unused colors just to set 3 back to white. Oh, I do not like that. That needs to be at least 0.5. A revelation. I'm going to delete this color trigger. I'm going to put a pulse trigger. Still color channel 2. It's going to fade out for about 0.5. Hold it for about 0.5. And then after 5 seconds, it's going to fade back to its original color, which I just need to go and copy the values of right there. I can copy paste these. I can flip them around so the bottom layer moves first, and then I can start to move them in. 5-second move time. I'm just going to have to swap the values of these. So the top will have to go down 100 to get back to its original position. And the bottom will have to go up 100. It's going to fade out for a second like you're tripping. And then when I go... What? Hello? Yeah, I'm stupid. Why would I not make it black? That was just pulsing to the exact same color that it was. For some reason I still had the color trigger mentality that I would have to choose the color it faded back to. But it just fades back to its original color. There we go. And it's moving back in. Oh, look at that. That's actually pretty cool. If I adjust the move times on it. Fade out. Whoa, you're tripping. Then here it comes. Oh, that was dead. And there you have an effect already. Bang. It's probably like 2 minutes into the video and I've already made an effect. I'm such a pro. Alright, I want to make a pattern in this wave using exponential in-out movement. It's going to be on a 1 second move time, moving down 45 pixels, so basically the very edge of this boundary. And then I'm going to copy this, move it about 1 second to the right, and these are just going to move back up in 2.5 seconds on ease in out, moving back to their original place. And then I'm going to play test this just to make sure that the bottom is all good before I format the top. Oh, I do not like the look of that one bit. What if I just flip the bottom and move it to the right by 2? Let's see how that goes. Yeah, I can do that twice. Gonna change the last movement to a bounce. I think that's more appropriate. Also, I changed the move time to 3.5 and I moved this 2 blocks to the right just for sync purposes, and also so that this ends before the portal, which gives me plenty of time to toggle it. Now it's got to somehow incorporate this to the top without messing anything up. This is probably the most complicated way I could possibly do this, but it's the way that my brain is telling me to, and that is just by copying it, flipping the Y value, and then just adding 1 to each group on the triggers. I forgot to flip the Y values on this, and once I do this, that is the vortex done. This wave might be a little bit janky at the moment, but once it's masked, I'm pretty sure it'll be fine. Ooh, I like how it ripples on the edge, and that is such a perfect transition too. Alright, so I need to change the background to copy color to hue plus 150 and brightness minus 0.4 for this transition to be nice and seamless. Alright, so the background trigger is right there. All I need to do is change the background to a blank one. I'm going to go ahead and make color 3 that exact thing, just for ease when I come to make the next effect. While it's on my mind, let's toggle the next free group, which is group 24. And then we also need a toggle off for this much earlier, like so. Then 24 is going to be the new move group. Kind of wasting groups by having a new move group every part. It's just a lot cleaner when I'm coming to make this building series. We are going to start off with a block here and a block here, and we are just going to rotate these and make a nice little circle. Alright, the circle is done. I'm just building the frameworks for the mask around the outside. There will be a pixel on the corner of this circle. I need to use a small object to go and exterminate that. This block right here, just so I don't have to awkwardly format a big square in the middle of that. I think layer 5, but this might have to change. Obviously it's going to be group 24. It's going to be on layer 3 just to be safe. In fact, I'm going to put this on 5 as well, because I do need 2 versions of this that are smaller. These can go on the layer below, just the same as before, with 2 Z order difference between, and we've reached Z order 11. So this is just the exact same thing as before, the exact same concept, but I'm using a circle this time. Just going to add some extra edges just by scaling this up and deleting all of this and all of this. That should be enough. I'm just going to put a string of blocks along the bottom just so I can count how many squares this is covering. 23, that should be good, as long as everything is appropriately placed. Don't know what's going on with this mask. What's this? Alright, I am an idiot. I was meant to make these all on even layers of Z orders, but I decided to put them on odd, which is the exact same as what's going through. So there was a bit of an issue when they were colliding with each other. They were fighting to be on the same layer. They were fighting to be visible. So now, when it goes through, it should be seamless. There you go, you can see it's a little bit of a circle pattern. Alright, here are the blocks once again. They have returned from the previous part. As you can see, the highest block up is invisible when the background comes on, so you can tell that that transition will be seamless. There's no brightness issues. I want to get the bottom layer done first. I'm going to copy the value of this, go to layer 2, and I'm going to draw a line with 3D line along the bottom like so. Group 24 and group 25. 24 is the constant movement, 25 is the movement that's going to push it underneath the mask. So right here, 25 is going to move 2.5 seconds, not 25, and it's going to move up 120 just to ensure that it goes all the way up to the top of the screen and through this middle circle. I've made some changes to the move trigger. It's going to be ease out instead of ease in out, and it's on 240, which is double what it was. I included 12 more lines moving up the screen, so now when I play test, you'll see them moving up, and it looks like they're getting squished inwards. I'm moving all the new stuff up to layer 10 just for ease when I come to make the next lines. The next level up from this will be on layer 11. It's going to keep 24, and it's going to be 26 moving up this time, and also I'm going to increase the size of this right here to a 1.2. I'm going to chop off the end like I did earlier. 26 is going to be moving up 300, not 3 minus minus. I keep misclicking. That's going to move for 12. Oh yeah, I'm liking the way that is going. I'm having to change all of these triggers because by the time it was getting into the end of the part, even if I extended them all the way down to the bottom, they were off screen. So these are just going up by 30 every time. So this is now 300. The next one is 330, 360, and there we go. The intro shouldn't be as harsh either when it's on ease out, so I'm kind of liking that. Giving myself a miniature break. I've been at this for an hour and a half so far. Just going to play through what I've got of the level at the moment, just to evaluate and reflect on what I've made so far. I think the level is pretty solid so far, effect wise. There's some that are quite overused and aren't very impressive, but I think I can incorporate them in a unique way that makes them stand out differently to how other people could make them. And there you go, that is the most impressive transition too. You've got the big note when you go into that UFO portal, the big duh, and that ease out just really helps bring that in because it's faster at first and then it just makes itself smooth again with that slow easing. I've done almost a minute worth of effect. I'm going to go and get myself a drink and a cake, and I'm going to finish off the effect in this level. I'm not going to cut it off like last time when I went for a snack and didn't come back. As you can see, select filter is turned on. I have the line selected, so if I quickly stop, I can go and select all of the lines that don't make it onto the display, optimize it a little bit. Now I can get started with the next mask, which is going to be a slope on group 30. As always, the top layer is going to be 11 Z order B4. If I extend this outward a little bit on the left hand side, I can then copy this 2 outward, increase the layer by 1, decrease that by 2, and this space in between at the top will be covered up. If I didn't have this extra overhang, this will be open and there will be cracks in the effect. I'm going to keep extending this all the way to Z order 1, and then we'll be done with that. The background was originally going to be black, but I want to make this mask a color 3, so I'm just going to leave it like that because the background is already color 3. I can turn off the portal check from the last part and we're good to go to start making this effect. This time I want the brightest layer to be on the top, so I'm going to have to go and rejig all of these Z orders as I've done so frequently in these videos. So now I'm going to run a test to see how long this strip is just by putting a line of squares and measuring it like that. 36. This object right here can go at the very edge, and it could be group 30 for the constant move, 31 for the move backwards this way, 800 for 15, not 16 seconds. I've made the exact same mistake again. I've made the mask an odd number, which clashes with the objects that are there, because these are also odd numbers. There we go, they're getting cut off right there. That's pretty cool. Don't know how to feel about it being so far across. I might move the entire set of masks to the left slightly, because I I feel like the effect would be a lot more exaggerated if it was happening a bit behind the player instead of in front. I noticed that it took quite a long time for the pillars to get there as well, so I'm going to change this movement to an ease out, so it could be a similar transition to the one earlier, just to get the pillars on screen faster. It's the same process as last time, copying the values from the next level up, copying these, pasting the state, and increasing the level by 1, and adding 30 for the constant movement, and 32, which is 1 up from the previous. Now we're going to add 32, and this is going to go back less, so 750, and now when we play this, it should move at different speed, and it should get cut off at a different point. There we go. That's looking pretty epic. Alright, I've made some big changes to the mask. If I go on one layer, it'll be easier to see. Basically, this used to be one continuous slope, but I flipped it on the top so that it goes the other way in an arrow shape. The arrows are covered up on this side instead of this side. And when you play the level, it looks like the arrows are being spawned from the right hand side, which looks pretty cool. I think it'll look a lot better when the different layers are added in. That is the ropiest jump I have ever made. I don't know how I lived that. Alright, the move triggers are set out for each layer. There's 5 layers and there's 50 difference between each of the X movements. Now all I gotta do is copy the values from these squares, scroll along, find this, copy, paste the values, move the layer up to the next, and add 30 and 34. This value is +1 every time. And now this should be a working effect, and that should be the last one in the level. Hey, as you can see, we've got multiple different layers, and some of them go up at the same time, which is very satisfying to watch. The only thing I want to change is how far back this mask is. All I gotta do is just select every single layer that I've got, if I can even find them. Just move it back, and that should be it. That should be every single effect in this level done. Got some nice arrows in this part. Might move it down a little bit so it's more centered. It seems fine actually. And there it is. Trippy in all its effect glory. I think I am finished with the effects in this level. Next, I've got to make all the designs, I've got to decorate it, I've got to make the transitions between each part, then I've got to polish it. So that'll be the next 4 episodes, and I should be able to premiere this on the 7th day. I'm just going to play test this one more time, and I'm going to end the video. So thank you very much for watching. Have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy and welcome to day 4 of build week. Today I'm going to be making the designs. A few changes have been made since the last episode, mainly in this wave. I put D blocks on this platform right here because sometimes you could accidentally clip it. This vortex is now perfectly centered in the middle of the screen, and that is because I changed this move trigger to a -15 instead of a -10. The other thing is that I changed the move time on this to add an extra second, and that just makes it a lot smoother when you're coming out of this. Before I design anything in this level, I want the colors to change with the ambience of the music so I know what I'm working with. So I'm going to set up some pulses for color channel 2. So this pulse is a total of 4 seconds, it fades in for 2, increases the saturation, increases the hue, increases the brightness, and also fades out for 2 seconds. And then I want to do the same but also desaturate it for the second part. For the ship part, I want to have quite a long and saturating pulse with quite a significant hue change, just to make that feel a lot more special. See, look how good that looks in really saturated colors, especially when it's going to have the blending screen above, which I'll add later. Then in the robot part, I'm going to delete all of these values. I'm going to decrease the brightness by 0.2. That's just going to make it feel a lot more murky going into this. And also you've got this pulse right here, which I made earlier, that already changes everything to black, so I don't want to tamper with that too much. I'm going to quickly go and test our base pulses. Let's have a look. I'm quite liking how this is looking with quite a dark saturated tone, and it also goes quite greyed out there too. That looks really good. I really like that. Then let's see this. Going murky. Oh, that looks really cool because the middle doesn't really change as much, but the background does go darker. And then this is all unchanged. So for this wave, I really want to go against that black pulse. I really want to make up for that lack of colour. I need to playtest this very closely to make sure that none of this is too ridiculous. See, I don't like that tone of green. Here's the wave pulse. Pretty much exactly the same as the one I did earlier, just plus 30 hue, plus 0.2 saturation, and plus 0.3 brightness. Because it doesn't look good when you adjust the hue too much, because it starts using the colour purple, which doesn't fit in with the rest of the colours on screen. Group 36, you are about to see some magic. Alright, here is the colour channel I will be using for the blending screen. As you can see, blending is ticked. It's on hue 180, copy colour channel 2. It's moving on the X coordinate at all times. Then it's got an alpha trigger fading it in for 1.4 seconds to 0.3 opacity. Then this changes for 10 seconds and it goes to 0.43. This is how the level is looking so far with these color changes. I much prefer these to just the regular colors that we had in the beginning. I'm liking how the blending screen's going so far too. It's tinting everything to a nice color, and I've just realized that the color trigger doesn't actually work like that, and it doesn't allow you to have a fade time when you're changing to another copy color. Okay, now for this, I'm going to untick copy color, and I'm going to put in my own values right here. So I want this to be around this color. I'm going to copy that. Then in this color channel, I'm going to change it to a much lighter blue. And that's going to actually fade this time because I'm not using a copy color. I'm going to play test this again to make sure the opacity I chose is right. Let's test it again going through the ship part. It should be changing right here. Good. I can see it changing slightly, making it look slightly desaturated and saturated at the same time, which is quite interesting. Alright, so it's time to make the covering mask for the robot part leading into the wave, maybe through the wave and to the cube portal. Made a brand new color which copies the background color at 0.95 opacity, so you can just see through it if you look closely. I'm just going to give the whole level a good covering. I will be able to delete these when the boundaries are introduced in the wave and evolve, maybe. Now we're at 25k objects, but we can now take out all of the areas that have some kind of block in them. Turned off the object color. I can't see any of the spikes. I'm probably going to die, but this is looking pretty gnarly so far. There, look how neat the wave part looks without any outlines on the blocks and just the sheer color difference. I like that. Alright, so here is the grand reveal for the final effect in the level. I made a couple of tweaks to the mask and I'm finally happy with it. I didn't like how open it was on the left, and I kind of wanted to continue the effect format from the previous part, how the sides are all cut off. So to do this, I literally just copied that one slope that I made and put it in a diamond shape that just gets smaller and smaller and smaller as the layers go down. Alright, I'm using these lines that I copied from down here to make the edges of the blocks. Since the beginning is quite obscured by this filter, I want to use a very simple block design that's quite similar to the ground to A, make links between elements, and B, not make anything clustered at all. So literally what I'm going to do is just going to copy the values of these lines to this structure, which is going to have bigger and bigger gaps between the lines as it goes on, and then made a block at the very bottom. Alright, I decided to extend that design across the entire block because it looked weird just having it on two pillars, especially when the effect is so quick. When it's on a big area like that, it's much more evident and it's much more smooth. Bang, one design done. Moving quick today. I'm liking the variation because right here you can see that there's a solid block sometimes, but not all the blocks have that because of how it's formatted. So I've been quite smart in doing that, I think. Alright, all slopes and outlines have been set to invisible in this ship section. And for the design, I have included these blocks right here, which are copied from the values of the outside of that line. Alright, I am going and selecting this mask and setting it to 38 because it was causing issues when it was overlapping this block. This is a pretty big moment for how this level will turn out. I'm testing the visibility in the ship with this spike format in the ship. Let's see if you can tell what's going on, please. Oh, you can. Oh, that's awesome. You can tell where the spikes are even though they're part of the effect. That is cool. This block actually looks kind of epic when you've got base on black blending and you just have the plus visible. The detail is going to pulse white the block before, and the block after will see the main fade to white. Alright, so with these triggers down and out of the way of my editor playtesting vision, I'm going to copy this and use build helper, which basically assigns it to a brand new group that hasn't been used yet, as well as the triggers. This just saves you manually adding the group every single time. Alright, watch this. I can copy the value of the block of interest, put a spike above, paste the states, and now it has the exact properties that I need in order to keep the effect consistent for both the top of the blocks and the spikes. That's going to look pretty nice when they pulse. Epic. Okay, coming down to the last two spikes. There we go. Now this should be all fine and dandy for visibility going into normal mode. Let's just see. I really like how everything is white when the screen goes dark. When it brightens up, it's not as attractive, but I still think it works. Gonna keep the wave blocks in a very similar format. This is going to pulse first, and this will fade in after. Here it is. That's what's going to be put on every single block. But if I just went and flipped it like this every time, it would go backwards. So I need to make another variant of it with only this flipped that I can copy paste after I go and put all these in. If I flip it upside down, it doesn't matter because the triggers will still be in the same sequence. I'm very glad all of these pulses were layered because I've just changed them to a 3-second fade in time and moved them 5 blocks to the left just so they start fading in before the middle one. I think that's going to work a lot nicer. I also forgot to make these main only, I think. This is ticked now, so this should look even better than it did. These pulse triggers were not layered, so I went and changed every single one of them because I thought I was being smart, but apparently not. So now I'm individually selecting every number in chronological order: 81, 82, 83, 84, 85. Nope, there's a bloody pulse trigger underneath that. 85, 86, 87. And these also need to have 0.05 and a 1 fade out. I've also moved these triggers 5 blocks to the left more because I want them to appear as black when they first come onto the screen, and then as soon as they leave I want them to have a white outline. Don't know if it's really been worth it fixing them. Yes, it is, because this is so much more smooth. When they are fading in and they are on that grey colour, they get colorized, which is super nice. Alright, so I've put some slopes on the edges of these blocks, not these because they're quite awkwardly shaped and I want them to be different. I've been using these corner pieces and these corner pieces to make the lighter edges closest to the inside. Adding a reasonable amount of grounding blocks right here, the filler blocks to take up the rest of this structure. Alright, these have all been done. I'm now going to select all of these and put them on color 9 black. Then the bottom ones are going to get moved 2 down. The top one's going to get moved 2 up, as I was saying. I have aligned move triggers to the edges of all of these blocks. Now these are going to move 3 sets of 5 blocks to the left, and these are going to have a 2-second move time on a bounce in out, going up 20, apart from these up here, which are going to go down 20. Now I just got to go and number them all, and these will be fully functional movements. The move triggers are all done. I'm just going to alter the move time to 3 so it's a bit more visible on screen. Let's have a look and see. Yes, there we go. Once these pulse, this will look pretty nice, I think. Alright, I'm adding pulse triggers 2 blocks to the left of each of these with their respective groups. There we go. That looks actually quite epic. That looks better than I thought it was going to look. Holy. It's definitely nothing special. I just think it's something to vary it up a little bit. And I want to include these blocks in this wave right here. Alright, I want to add some depth to the inside of these blocks in the robot part. I'm going to use this block as an example. I'm going to put glow along the top, regular blocks on the inside, and slopes just to fill in the outside. I'm going to set this to don't fade, don't enter, and also 50% opacity black. I'll just go and paste those values and check it out in normal mode. It should be looking nice and shadowed along the bottom edge. should give it a little bit of variation in its color, so I like that. Squaring off some of these blocks in the wave to allow for two different designs that are differentiated by a thick outline. These blocks will initially be black, but once the player reaches them, they're going to pulse white, just like these blocks right here, which I do want to incorporate into the design somehow. These blocks will go on the corners, and these edge blocks will go on the side like so, just to make the edges a little bit more opaque, and that will gradually fade up to this outline right here. Gonna give it a bit more depth. I'll also set this to black. The designs inside these outlines are going to be different to the designs inside these slopes, and I felt like one block right here will be a little bit awkward, so I added a corner piece right here, just linking these objects together so it's a lot easier to select because they are on two different layers. I wanted to be able to select them individually and as a link. Now this makes the grouping process a lot easier because I can just add 237, 239. This one comes before, so I'm going to give it 238, and then next 3. I'm just lining up pulses to the edges of these blocks, and then when they are all done, I'm going to select them all and move them back about 8 blocks. This number might change, but it's just a starting number I have in mind. Just fixed 2 mistakes. I turned off glow, and I also increased the Z order so that these blocks are higher than their filler insides. This should be a lot cleaner now when I'm going in. Very cool. Might alter the pulse time because it's a little bit awkward at the moment. They do stay white for a very long time. I'm going to change that to a 2, and I'm going to move the block 2 spaces to the right, I think. Nice. That's a lot smoother. But there's one change that you're probably screaming at me to do. That is going to be very tedious, but it's going to be worthwhile. This is going to make the outside pulsing effect a lot more smooth. Basically, I'm copying the base object and just flipping it on its side, just so it's one continuous line instead of being so blocky on the edges as opposed to the smooth outside. I gotta select these edges one by one just to make sure that I don't mess up the grouping process. As you can see in preview mode right now, if I sweep over, it will be nice and smooth. This little fade in right here. Now when I play in normal mode, it's looking very sleek. It's getting colorized on the fade in, and these squared off blocks tie into it pretty nicely. This next design to go inside the slopes is going to tie it in together even nicely. That's not a word. Remember, this is all masked, so I don't want to have anything inside the blocks that's too opaque, otherwise it's going to take away from the effect that I made in this part. I'm feeling these blocks right here on half opacity black, color 8. These are going to be on T1, just so I can make sure that they are visible. I think this is appropriate because the outside line of these blocks is the least opaque, and the inside is the most opaque. It's kind of a polar opposite to the format of the blocks in here, because they have the most opaque part of the object around the outside edge. I've formatted the rest of these blocks. They're on color 9. I'm going to give them the next free group, which is 242. And I'm going to go and put an alpha trigger all the way over here, which just has 242 on a 0.4% opacity. Then when you get into the wave, it's going to fade for 5 seconds to about let's just say 1 opacity. And then when this ends, that duration line isn't actually showing up. Then we could just go and fade this off for about 3 seconds to maybe a 0.5 this time, make it more opaque than it was, and that's just going to lead us on to the UFO. Going to leave these blocks blank in the transition. Bang, here we go. This should be getting more opaque right now. I can see that. I do want to have them float slightly, just so they have a bit more of a changing aesthetic. Make the level feel like it's a bit more floaty and bubbly as you go in this wave. Okay, the bottom set can be put on 243, and the top set can be put on 244. The top set of blocks are going to be getting moved up first to then come back down after that movement ends, and the bottom is just going to be the opposite. It's going to move down first to then be moved straight back up after that movement ends. Somehow I forgot about these blocks right here. I've copied the values of the outline and the filler block from this block over here, which shouldn't be a problem in the grand scheme of pulses because they are disconnected from every other block. As you can see, there are 6 spikes on screen right now. I just got to copy the values from the blocks that they are resting on, giving them color 9 every time on the detail, since the original blocks do not have that. I just got to make sure that everything is pulsing consistently and at the same time. Alright, I think these designs complement each other pretty well. I've incorporated some movement within the blocks. Gonna have to incorporate some movement within the decoration because I can't really move stuff while there's a mask there, but I'm going to take a break for now. After the break, I'm going to have to go and design all of these blocks in the UFO and also the cube, which is going to probably take the longest amount of time since I haven't even formatted the colors yet, but I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. Okay, it's time to do the UFO. I want to have 2 color loops for the block design in this part. Every color I've made in this level so far has been copied from color 2, and I'm going to set these onto different color channels instead. The reason for this is because I've got all of these different objects here, but they are just color 2 with different HSV values. But if I'm using color channels to do this, then I can change the value of this specific color channel instead of changing the color 2 and also affecting all of the other lines in this effect. Alright, that is done. I have used 10 color channels, which is 2 lots of groups of 5. This design is going to get done in strips. I'm going to start with this block because it's the longest and it'll show the format of the block best to the viewers. Color 11 for the top, and it's going to move down onto 12, down to 13, down to 14. Then I'm going to take this block, I'm just going to flip it upside down, and this value is then going to be spread to the opposite end of this block. And now I'm going to make a nice efficient color loop. For each of the new color IDs I have just placed, they need to be changed by plus 30 every time. So this color channel 11 started off on 0, it's now going to plus 30, and it also needs to go down 0.08 every time. Alright, so I've reached the max values for these blocks. Then I'm going to have to add a regular one that just sets it back to its original color right after that. So that is the loop. But that's only for that color. So what I need to do is copy this. I need to change the color ID to 12. I'm going to move it 1 to the left and just move this block right to the end, because color 12 starts on hue plus 30. You'll see right here, color 12 plus 30 minus 0.08. So its base should be on the end. So it is. It's just a very nice way for me to quickly spread the values across to all the other color channels. Okay, I'm going to spread out these color channels right here because I've had an idea of how they're going to change. And then I'm going to copy it and flip it that way with a gap of 3 in between. So it moves up, waits a bit, and then it moves again. You'll see right here. I've also went and selected all of these little hoops right here, and these are going to get put on 15 just to complete this color change right here. As for colors 16 to 20, starting with the bottom layer, I'm going to offset them by 1 block each. I mean, first of all, I should probably set out a structure for this so I can see how it works. This is just going to get copied and pasted over and over again, and I'm probably going to get slated for not using a spawn trigger, but really, this isn't going to lag. And it's just a lot easier in my mind when I'm trying to record a building video ahead of time. I'm getting very close to the release date already, and I haven't even designed everything yet. This might be a cool thing to do. I'm going to select the end trigger of each loop, and I'm just going to set the color to black, because I think that might be quite appropriate just for a solid, abrupt ending. You know what? I'm going to spice up this series. I'm going to use custom objects. And while I go give this block to a bunch of the other structures, I'm going to go and watch something, so I'll make this a time lapse. Alright, I've done a few structures, but I've realised for this to work properly, I'm going to have to put a lot into the structures using these colour cycles to tie it all together. I've done some stuff, some very basic stuff. These slopes are constantly different at all times because the base is on the first loop and the secondary is on the secondary loop. There's been a lot of tampering going on with this design because I can't really get it to look how I want it to, but I think it does look decent the way it is. Alright, I've made a couple of colour adjustments right here. I think it's looking very fresh, very filtered. It gets murkier and murkier as the level goes on, as it fades to black. Gonna make the colours look very unique too. It's fading out right now. Maybe I need to adjust the fade time because it did look a little bit weird, but I'm a big fan of the way it's going so far. I'm actually quite liking these pulses on the blocks with these color loops. I thought it was a little bit weird at first, but the filter has completely changed my mind. Whoa, so you'll notice that the design is gradually broken up and the blocks degrade into solid black blocks down here, as you can see. This is partially to foreshadow the abrupt end right here, although I do want to add some more block deco because this is very bland as it is. I want to use these 4-pieced blocks. I'm going to put them side by side just for reference. Yeah, you can see that this original design that I made has 4 different colors, and this block also has 4 different colors. And I think the transition will be quite seamless, especially since I'm planning to use the same color cycle as what's in these blocks right here. Okay, so I've arranged these blocks in a little chart just so I can evaluate my color arrangements before I line the top edges of these blocks in this section right here. I have used both color loops, admittedly one more than the other, but I feel like the second one gets a better color range. There's a small discrepancy in the way I'm doing this, which is this block right here. I'm going to be using a group of 2 instead of 2 singles because I'm cool like that. Quick interjection, I am going to change this block right here to be color 17. I've got to format the outlines of these blocks now. Bang! Just like that. Then I can go and select all of the default blocks that are in here with a nice old select filter. Then I can just add group 1 and they'll be gone and the new outlines will be in place. Alright, there we go. The new design is in place. As I expected, the transition is pretty much seamless. You can't really tell that the blocks are phased out. I like that. Looks nice and mystical going into the ship. And I'm not going to design that today because it's going to be mostly black. All I've got to do is put the filler blocks in the bottom of those structures that I just built, and I'll be done for the day. Alright, everything is set in stone, fine and dandy. I'm going to play through the level once in normal mode, then I'm going to close off the video. Adios to build week day 4. Everything is designed, apart from a couple of decoration pieces in the end in the black blocks, and also the end block design, which is going to be mostly black anyway, so it's pretty much done design wise. Some of it was definitely a patience endurance test, especially the stuff that took a lot of tampering with and testing, and I'm enjoying it though. Day 5 will be decorating, so make sure you tune in, like, comment, subscribe, let me know what you think. Have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to day 5 of Build Week. After a long day 4, I am here once again. Somehow. It's day 5, Decoration Day. I've got a couple of ideas in mind already, but I do have to take movements into consideration before I start anything, so I can make sure the decoration is nicely arranged and doesn't overlap with anything. In this beginning cube, this mask is acting sideways, which means that things could get iffy if I'm moving along the horizontal x-axis. However, I am free to move along the vertical y-axis, which is what I plan to do for a lot of these structures right here. I've put a start pause all the way over here so I can get a good look at these cube structures without any of this mask stuff going on. All of the designs are on different editor layers. As you can see, I have to scroll through. There's lots of different components to it. Just being able to pause over there lets me just select all of these structures freely without having to worry about anything getting messed up. Wow, okay, I kinda just messed up there. What is going on here? Oh, this used to be one big long structure, but then I made it 2 separate. These numbers aren't very memorable, so I'm going to do all of the up movements first, then I can move on to the down ones. Just so I can remember, I know that I started on 245, I don't want to have to remember like 245 up, 246 down. I'm going to use my classic move triggers strategy, just by placing move triggers on the edge of each block, just so I can get these movements consistent. Then I'll move them all back after I've placed them all. Bang! Elastic in, out. This is going to be perfect for the job. Yeah, look at that. Alright, you can't have every block moving, and you can't have every block moving the same way. Got a bit of variation going on right here. Some ups, some downs. They're all in the same easing to keep that consistent, but I think this is pretty solid so far. I was worried that you wouldn't be able to see what was going on because of the effect that's already there, but I think it's working a charm. I think this is just the perfect movement and visibility going on right here. Okay, I've got some pillars in now. We've got a nice set of these. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy them and I'm going to move them to the layer above. So Z order 2, we'll put 21 on 0.75 opacity black, and that'll cover that up pretty nicely for some low opacity decoration. I've also slipped in some of these blocks right here. I'm going to have to incorporate those moving groups onto them as well if I want them to stick. I also want to add some of these mini blocks on the side of some of these objects, just to give them a little bit more variation in their shape. Going to change their opacity too, because they looked a little bit crazy the way that they were. They were way too bright, kind of stuck out. That's a lot better. They're a lot more subtle this way. While I'm thinking about opacities, I could actually save object by removing that 75% opacity black layer above these pillars and just adding them to group 258 instead. That will help me out immensely. Just adding some ground spikes to the bottom of the level with the top value of these blocks right here. I want to add some arrows too. I think that's going to be nice. Trying out some glow on the orbs with a little bit of blending. I think it looks pretty good. The one thing I'm not sure about at the moment is the color of the diamond on those saws. I just don't think it looks right. I feel like it should be either the color of the arrows and the ground spikes or the same color as the spikes, which does actually make sense. I think it should be the color of the spikes. What do these little circles look like? I try to use some white just to give it a bit of variation. I think this is looking pretty sweet. I was quite scared about how the white would go, but I think it actually worked out perfectly. I'm happy. I don't know how this is going to work, but I'm going to goddamn try. This was fading to 0.25, now it's fading to 0.33. I think that is the right value. So group 7 and group 8 get toggled on here. Okay, these objects have group 7 and 8. It's going to act as a black gradient on the top and bottom on B3. As you can see, it's on color channel 9. Then I'm going to copy this, add another editor layer, add a whole Z layer above, then go to black blending and give this a brand new group 259. It's a little bit different to these numbers, but it's going to do. And 259 is going to pulse to a grayish white for 5 seconds, and then it's going to fade out for 5 seconds, which just slightly runs out of this portal right here. You can see the differences here. It might help if this was pulsing as a group and not a color channel. Nice. Maybe I could tone it down a little bit. Maybe this can get toned down a slight bit, and this can fade on for about 3.5 and then fade out for 6. The next thing to do is to replace all of these gear saws with actual saws. I've had to go and use some mini blocks for this saw because these blocks were way too big even when they were on 0.5 scale. What if I actually change this again? I know I'm making lots of changes so that it's just like a 2.5 hold, and this color is just kept for this, like this section right here. Now you may be thinking, what the hell is he doing? You know, he's putting all of these default saws in, but when I add the other details using this pulse, it's going to tie together pretty nicely, as well as the color difference as well. This is all like grey and this is all colored. I'll quickly check it in game. Yeah, it's looking good. I'm really liking this. And you know what? I'm even going to get a little bit groovy. Alright, I've had a lot of double pulses in this level already, but I'm about to make another one. This glow object is going to be 260, and this arrow that is going right on top is going to be 261, and these are both going to be black blending. So I want a 1 second pulse in on 259 that goes to white and then quickly fades out to 0.05. Actually, it's going to be a little bit grey. It's not going to be fully white. Then, right at the end of this pulse, I'm going to pulse the other group in, but it's going to have reversed values. So it's going to start on 0.05, then it's going to fade out for 1. It would be nice if I got the groups right. That would be kinda epic. So, it's going to fade in slowly, and as soon as this object gets touched by the player, or the player goes past the same level as it, the arrow is going to appear. Just like that. I think that's really cool. Okay, now, if I give this 262, I can then have a move trigger right here that moves it across 20 blocks in 1.05 seconds, and as soon as the player hits it, it goes across 10 on ease out, maybe. If I just stick all of this on T1, it's blending, so the player will still be behind that. We'll just put it up really high. Let's give this a really high editor layer as well, just to make sure nothing is touching it. Right, we'll go right here, I'd say, because it's got to move left first. Okay, I've done a couple of adjustments on the trigger. This one has been extended to 2 seconds long. It's still moving the same, but it's on ease in. Then this is now moving 40 across on ease out with a 1.05 move time. Bang! There you go. Now all I gotta do is copy this around with Build Helper, and I'll be good to go. This level's looking pretty smooth so far. There's a lot of movements. There's a lot of nice pulses too. There's not many pulses in this part, but I feel like the next couple of parts do make up for that. I just love this arrow thing, man. I'm glad it's worked out how I expected it to. And once again, I'm going to turn down the brightness on this. I've had an interesting idea. I don't know how this is going to work out, but I'm going to try it anyway. I'm going through and individually giving each one of these gradient blocks its own group. Just getting along to the end right here, going 293 to 306. Then I'm going to quickly go and flip the top, just so it's not the same on the top and bottom. It'll be backwards on one side. Right on this portal, I want to start an effect where each one of these blocks gets faded out quickly, about 0.5 seconds long to 0.1, so it's still there just, but it'll significantly switch up the display, and then it'll just quickly fade back on for 1 second back to full. And then, how much am I going to put between these triggers? I think half a block. Just quickly going to extend this all the way to 306, and there we go. Where does that extend to? Almost that portal. If I change this fade time, it'll just reach the edge of this portal, and I think that could look pretty cool. Especially if I move it along one. I think it'll significantly switch up the display going into this duel. Oh, yeah, that looked nice. Oh my, let me see that again. Let's see it. Oh my goodness, that is so clean. I'm going to tamper with this pulse trigger once again. Where does 3.5 take us? To there. So if I extend that to a 4, then that'll just reach the end of these. Then we can hold it for 2.5, which takes us to there. Nice. And then how long for an exit? Like a 3.5? Where's the edge? There. I don't want to go all the way to black before it ends, so I do want to extend this to another 4. Then I can just go and make this white, and that'll really, really make that sweep look really clean. Instead of slowly fading out towards the edge, I'm literally just going to take these, and I'm going to make them fade out for about 3 seconds to black from that portal. Maybe on this yellow portal they could go for 1 second, and that'll make the sweep happen again. I'm so excited to see this yet again. Here it comes. Sweep on the yellow. There you go. Nice transition. I mean, obviously the transitions haven't been done yet, but that's going to be a very big helping hand for when I do come to do that in the next episode, or at the end of this, depending on how long this takes. I just wasted about 3/4 of an hour. I did a level request in my break from building and deleted the level that I was playing, so that when I came out of my own level I was playing through once more before I hit the record button again. I deleted this copy too. I've had to go and remake all of the effects that I literally just made in this ship section. I think I've got it back to normal, but there might be a couple of differences. It's pretty much the same thing, all the effects are the same. It's just a minor setback. So, you know I've got a layer of black glow here. A layer of T3 grey glow, the one that pulses white. But I've also got a brand new layer on editor layer 14, which copies the value of the lowest level on these blocks. It's a dark blue. It's also slightly opaque because it's got 258 on it. Makes it feel a bit less like a void, and it ties all of the glow together in my opinion. I think it looks pretty cool. Maybe I could have it fade to a different colour as the part ends. I'm still thinking about that. I could literally just go and make it fade out at the end of this ship section. It does kind of highlight that this spinning beam is slightly off-center. You can see on the left that there's a lot more space here than here. But then again, I could just fix that by moving it about 2 blocks to the edge. Also, I've just tweeted a preview of the first cube. Let's see what people are saying. Talented effect creator. Looking hot, really cool. Is this your level or someone else's? Because no one believes that I'm a creator. That gives me confidence about the way the level is going so far. I wasn't too sure on the beginning cube because it does look a little bit messy to me, but now that I've read that off Twitter, I do believe that it looks fine. I'm a big fan of this ship section though. I think this ship part is a lot better than the first cube. I don't even know if I did this before, but I'm going to extend the fade out time to 2 seconds and move it to this portal right here, just so it's a lot smoother. I've put in a few more saws just to fill in a bit more space, making sure that the arrows don't overlap them at the same time. Huh? I didn't know that could still kill you. I added a pink pad right here that I thought would just stop you from hitting the very edge of that, but apparently not. I've just put some mini spikes instead to try and persuade people to go low and not go straight in the middle like I just did and die. Holy, put me in bloodbath. What is that straight fly? I have a tiny little idea for some decoration, which is similar to the pillars in the other part, but I don't know if this is going to work. Let's check these out in full. Okay, I think that is going to work. I like that. That looks so cool. And especially that last one looks insane. How these are flipped. I've added some small chains. This ship part is the part that I had the most doubt with when I was going to come to decorate it. I have no idea how it's turned out this sick to me. I'm literally just going to add some regular little spikes at the bottom here. You can see they sit above everything else. You're going to have to excuse the transition into it for now, but I think the ship section is done. Let's take a look. I've included some pulsing objects on the top of these blocks. The bigger ones have the top value and the little ones have the lower value. Since this doesn't have any obscuring effects, this is going to be a lot more difficult to design and decorate. I'm just adding in some gears around the green line that goes through the editor. You'll notice that I've placed them on layer 2 and I've only placed them near blocks because I'm just going to straight up copy the values of nearby blocks onto the saws. Just something to link the blocks and the saws together a little bit. There you go. Hopefully I haven't placed any saws on top of the circles, but they are pulsing at the same time as the blocks. I like that. It fills in the space quite effectively. Also, while I'm here, I want to make a quick nerf. No one's going to notice that. I'm going to make some quick decoration right here, just by putting a square there and a square here that is on color white and is on the layer above. There we go. We should have a little square. If I put something behind, yeah, you can see that there's a black outline around the outside. And also in this saw, I am going to go ahead and add a chain with page state values of it. And it's going to be on 9 instead of 10 because I don't want blending on it. I just want it to sit there like so. If I want to be super extra, I can go to layer 9 and I can select the blocks that go into the middle of this square. And I can just quickly change them to half opacity black. And that'll make a nice little difference in the mask, and it'll also connect the saws to the blocks a little bit. There you go. Alright, I've filled in all of the saws. I've made the gaps in the mask. I think it's looking pretty sweet so far. You've got some different light levels right there. You've got some nice pulses. You've got some pulsing squares. I want to add some pulsing arrows too, because I feel like these circles on the blocks aren't enough. Also, on the mask, I added a little gradient block at the bottom right here that you can see I've selected. That just blends it back onto this level, so that it doesn't clash with the block too much. It also kind of matches the gradient on the bottom of here. But yeah, there's not much else to include here. There's not really much need for decoration because there's so many effects here that kind of just make it up. One thing I am going to do before my break though is include this gradient on the top of all of these little shafts right here. Because I like having that blend. I don't want it to be messy because the beginning is probably one of the best things I've ever built and it's super clean. I don't want the rest of the level to be messy after that. I just gotta add a couple more details here and there. I can put some more gaps in the mask to include some arrows. That'll be pretty cool. And yeah, then I gotta move on to the wave, which honestly shouldn't be much work either because of how much design is there. That's the joy of having a mask because it makes up a lot of your decoration too when you have different light levels. Alright, it's time to go and add some shapes into the mask. This block right here is my first target. I'm going to copy the values of it, then put 2 slopes in an arrow shape, scale them down, half space this down to the middle of the block, then just move it to the very edge, pasting the values onto it. Then we just need these mini blocks, paste those values, and there we go. We have an arrow shape, so that when I go into preview mode, go and play this, you can see that there's a difference in the light level. I want this arrow to be right in the middle of these blocks right here, so what I'm going to have to do is go and delete these 4 blocks and then go and get the mini block, paste the values from earlier and just surround it so it fits in the middle quite nicely. I just need to keep on making small adjustments and adaptations to the levels look so I can fit this in the way I want it, so it's in the most aesthetically pleasing place. Wow, I suck at placing blocks. Okay, here is going to be a massive arrow, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go and align the sides of this with the same values as earlier, so that leaves a 4x6 gap in the middle. I'm going to use a scale 1 slope and a scale 0.5 slope just to make up that middle area. If I can half space that, that's in the right place now. So I need these mini blocks again, paste the values on everything, and that will be a nice looking arrow right there. Let's have a look. I think these arrows are looking decent. Not so good in the dark areas like that. You can't really see them at all, which leads me to go and put something inside those areas. That yellow looks pretty cool if you ask me, although I think it should fade in. So I'm going to be using even more groups to do this. Okay, I've got a 0.2 fade alpha trigger that just turns it off completely. When you go past it, it's like you're turning off the light, which is pretty cool. Okay, I've set them to fade as the player reaches them on a 0.2 fade time. I think this gives it a bit of life when all of these colors are desaturated. I did set the blending effect above it to be on gray instead of blue for the rest, so I felt like I needed some sort of perky color to spice it up. I might include some more yellow for some more decoration right here. If I do that, I do have to remember that the yellow fades out in these arrows, so I will have to have some other fading effect on the other yellow decoration so that works together. You can see right here that I've added some yellow decoration near these arrows that fade out at the same time. I think it actually looks pretty cool in game. I don't know though, I think the fade time is a little bit weird compared to the fade time that's on the blocks. And when there's lots of arrows in one place, like these blocks right here, with these 2 arrows, I think it might become a little bit too clustered. I might have to tweak some things. Oh my goodness, this yellow is kinda crazy. I don't know if I like it or not. No, definitely not that strand right there. I thought I was doing something by putting some spikes on the edge of that block, but that's pretty messy if you ask me. I think I maybe fixed it. I do definitely want to have spikes there because I think that's pretty creative. I forgot to paste the values. I think I also failed with these groups too. Let me just check that. There we go. Now it's looking how it's supposed to. Okay, I like that. Wait, it's empty at the top. I'm having problems with this section, as I knew I would, because it goes completely black and that's really hard to decorate. What if I literally just put text that just says void, like down here? Okay, group 258 is coming back, and it's coming back to the arrows that are going in these portals, that are also going to follow the yellow format thing that I was making. Group number 258 is now making a brand new appearance to these arrows that are going on the portals. They're following the yellow format. What if I just make a very bold change to the way that this works and hope that it goes well? So 5 blocks earlier it's fading out, then it's going to fade back in as it goes off the screen, maybe? Yellow is joining this void pulse, except it's going to go to quite a dark grey instead of total blackness. There we go. That is actually quite effective. And then, yeah, I'm going to show you the level as it is so far. Then I'm going to go and get to polishing the transitions, maybe making a start on the wave, and I'll end the episode there. I can't possibly decorate this in one episode. Off screen, I've went and rejigged the placements of these alpha triggers, extended the fade off time to 0.5 and changed the opacity to 0.25 so it doesn't go completely invisible, it just sort of twinkles as you go past it, and I like that. I'm definitely going to make the transitions now because I can use the screen I'm going to use to make the void look a lot better. Alright, so using the pause method I explained earlier, I can literally just go and select all of the objects in this ship section, give it a brand new group, which is 318, and then on the ship portal, I can toggle that on, toggle it off back here, and I'll show you the color trigger thing that I did right here. I used color 6 earlier to fade away from black. That goes to 0% opacity. At the beginning you see it's black and then it fades off, so I can reuse this transition right here. You'll see 4 color triggers. This fades it to 0.6 on 0.8, then right before the portal it fades it to full opacity. When the portal's hit, it fades it back down to 0.6, and then this gets turned off on a 1-second fade time to 0 opacity. Then to ease it in a bit more, I could take these arrows away from group 318, just so this transition is eased in a lot more. You've got a sense of direction almost. That spike is very, very dangerous, I've just noticed. Alright, this is group 319. It's literally just a box of spikes, and then this is going to get toggled off right at the portal. So as you go in, you can see that there are some spikes there that you need to avoid, but this isn't going to mess with the effect. All I've got to do is just change everything to be color 1 on both base and detail. I want to copy this color 6 thing again right on the edge of this portal. The only difference is I've moved this color trigger back, so it starts fading out as soon as you get to this blue portal. I'm kind of excited to see how the void works with these brand new pulses. I'm not too confident with the way it looks at the moment, so I thought I'd do this before I try anything else because it's kind of ugly. I don't know. I really don't know. It perfectly works on the edges of portals, but when you try to bring it into anything other than 1, it just looks weird. Now I'm trying a 2-second fade time on full opacity. I've synced up with the side of that. Here we go. Void. There you go. That actually might work. I want to try dark blue on this because there's not much blue in this section. It's been mainly grey. I want to see what happens if you bring... Ooh. That could actually be pretty cool if I get the right colour. Alright, I think I'm happy with what I've got for now. I'm definitely going to have to bring in something else on the transitions because the black fade-ins are quite boring after a while. I want to have something else a layer above maybe. I like that new void pulse. I think that works pretty well. It hides the fact that there's barely any decoration there. But yeah, I think that's the end of that for now. We are 45% done. Major progress has been made in this episode. First cube, done. Ship, done. Robot/ball void thing, done. The wave I've got ideas for, and the rest will have to have quite intense decoration because there's no mask or obscuring effect or anything in that part. There's no proper pulses. I mean, I do have the color loops, but they're not like on the same level as the robot ones where I can literally just make free decoration out of it. 2 more days left. Remember, day 7, the finale is a premiere on Sunday. Be there or be square. Have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome to day 6 of build week. I'm hoping to get close to finishing this today. We made about 45% progress on the decoration yesterday. Tomorrow you'll see the actual release of the level on a premiere on YouTube. Make sure you get there. I still got some stuff to tweak with the beginning, but the first thing I want to do is brush up on this robot before I start decorating anything else, because I feel like this effect isn't really enough. I need something else there in the background because this doesn't live up to the other ones. This should be something pretty easy to fix. I'm going to put half opacity black arrows on the left hand side, which are going to move to the right. The mask is on B3-1, so I want this to be on the very top of B4, I think. Give it a brand new group, 320. And I'll just put a move trigger right underneath this portal that just moves it along for 20 seconds just to make sure it covers the whole part. Just going to go about 400 blocks. I've moved the arrows up 1 layer to allow for some blending. It's now on 25% opacity, blending white. I still think it looks a little bit weird. I think it just works best when it's subtle, especially when it goes into this void. Pretty much it's just on really low opacity black. I could probably get away with changing the easing on this to something like bounce, just to kind of reflect the kind of background noises in the song. That kind of syncs pretty well too with how the portals are laid out. I like that. Then I can literally just go and toggle that on this portal since the overlay goes to full opacity. So right in line with this trigger, we are going to toggle 320, and that's that. I do have an idea of what I want to do in this wave. At points like this, where the ceiling and the ground goes in like a V shape, I want to fill in the edges with mini blocks like these. So I've got a 1 block wide gap in the middle of 2 blocks, and I want to put arrows in like that. We are well on our way with decorating this just by having those little arrows in between. There's not many instances that you get those like V-shaped corridors because of how I've structured it, which allows me to vary up pretty nicely. Okay, I've added in some nice little ground spikes. These are both on 9 and they're going to get added to group 322, which is a Creo song. I want these to just pulse on and off in the wave to white and then out of white. I don't know where this pulse trigger actually ends, but I'm going to make it sync with the edge of the portal. And then I also want to go and apply that exact same formula for these saws to link everything together. There we go. I'm going to add these kind of spikes on the same format again. They're just going to sit right on top of these ground spikes. They're going to float there. Because I never like having my ground spikes just being flat on the ground, I prefer to have stuff build from them. And I honestly think that looks pretty cool. It looks quite fragmented in a way. You'll see right now that I've included some black circles within the saws, and I am planning to go and give them the same groups as what is on the corresponding pulse. So as you can see, when this block pulses, this circle will also pulse, and that will add to the effect. I want to change the opacity of the mask blocks in this section as it goes on, because I feel like it's a little bit too much at some parts. I would rather there be a pulse that reduces this, because A, it makes it cleaner, and B, it brings some variety in its aesthetic going all the way through. Color 9, which is normally black, changes to a dark shade of blue, which is reflected in the 50% opacity version, color channel 8, and also the mask color. Okay, I'm probably done with this wave now. I'm very happy with how the colors turned out. I think it's looking very perky. Not sure how this transition is going to work exactly, but I'm sure I'll find a way. I've been tampering with the transition out of the cube before the UFO. Basically, it toggles on a small circle above the player so you can see what's going on this pulse. I think it works pretty well. I've also changed the first jump to a yellow jump pad just to make this a little bit easier to see and sight read. When you go down to the same level as this portal, there are 2 blocks right here that make sure you can't jump out of the way for this circle right here to be locked onto the player's X and Y coordinates. Coming out of the wave, you can see a color 6 loop on 0.4, then it goes to 0.6, then it has the long fade to 1, which is quickly turned off to 0.6, and then slowly fades out to 0. Then color channel 6 has a pulse, which is the bright blue. It's the same hue as the one in the background, just a lot brighter. So it all comes together to form a pretty neat transition. All I had to do was make the object lines in this part T3, so they would show up above the black screen overlay. I've put in some spikes right here, just randomly distributing some numbers from the color loops onto them. I think they look pretty cool. There's also a bit of a brightness difference. I decreased the brightness by minus 0.3, and I think it looks pretty decent so far. I have got a little idea for the ground spikes in this UFO. Alright, so on this portal transition, these spikes are going to seamlessly come in with the toggle trigger perfectly aligned with the color trigger that turns off the overlay. 328 is the top row, 329 is the bottom row. I want them to be both moved in 20 initially. I'm trying to fill up dead areas of the screen at the top and bottom because these edges are really hard to decorate against the ground spikes. Now there's a couple of things I forgot to do. 327 needs to lock onto the x-axis while also moving 400 blocks to the left for 15 seconds on ease in, just so it gets faster and faster. I also want it to pulse. I want to bring back that white colour that I've been using in every single part up until this. I've added some regular black glow on T3 to tie in with the ground. Then behind that on T2, behind the actual spikes, there's some more glow. Alright, I've tweaked it a little bit colour-wise and movement-wise. Hopefully this is smooth. Hopefully this is fair gameplay too. It seems to be alright so far. And there you go. I think that is the smoothest it is going to get. I deleted the pulse. I changed the spikes to one of the colors in the color loop. And I just overlapped a couple of these easings just to make the movement very smooth off and on. This glow behind this layer of spikes is now half opacity black. and I added this bottom part to this overlay glow because there was a crack at the bottom going into the portal. Okay, so at the end of this UFO, I've brought back the same transition as what I had earlier with the white circle, with the same pulse on the beat as well. The only thing is, this is now a single color channel fade in when this used 2 because it was a longer build up here. This is a much shorter build up to this flash, so I'm only using 1, which is 1.25 seconds long. Here we go, you're about to see it right here. I think that's super smooth once again. A really cool touch actually would be to make this circle fade back in right towards the end. Just like that, and then it can quickly fade out at the end too when the screen goes black. So with these color loops, the middle number is 13 on the first one and the middle number is 18 on the second one. So I've put 13 on the top and 18 on the bottom one. That might spice it up a lot. I'm gonna go ahead and change these to white because I noticed that I made the first couple of circles white on the transition. I thought I'd continue it. It also makes that link of the object lines and also these pulsing things too. So as you can see in this UFO, I've fixed some of the layering issues with these lines. I had the lines on T3 for the transition, which were above the spikes, so if you noticed that, I am very sorry. Ooh, that is looking nice and glowy on the saw. So we've got color 13 for this side, color 18 for this side, and then we've got some bright blending copy color 2 glow on top of the saw. We've got a problem here. Gonna have to go and copy the values of this, go and get the half glow object, then just flip it into place like that. That should be seamless. Let's see the latest creation on the saws. I think it's looking pretty good. I like having the double-sided glow with different colors on. I think that looks pretty cool. But for these arrows in the beginning, I think I'm going to remake them and add glow on top so they tie in. Okay, so this on 18. Then we can get a small glow object right here. Shove that on top. And then use the blending color of 2. Behind this, I've added a half opacity black bit of glow, and it's also on 258, so it's barely visible, but it's there. Alright, so I've copied the glow from the middle of the saws. I've also put it on the portals with group 258, so it's a bit more subtle that way. It's looking good to me. Just need to fill in a couple more empty spaces, and this ship part will be done. Okay. I have literally no idea why I wasn't doing this before, but I've put some detail on editor layer 18 as you can see, and it's going underneath this mask. I could raise this left hand side of the mask up to editor layer 14 while raising this decoration up to editor layer 13, and this will make it show on the right hand side of the screen and then curve off on the left while keeping the effect the same. Alright, let's take a look in normal mode. There we go. I've finally done something that makes this part feel whole. I'm happy with this. I really like how this is masked. I'm going to do the same with this background right here. Just going to up the Z order to 14 and we'll be good to go. I'm only going to use this for a couple of blocks in this part because I found out that when they overlap, it looks a little bit ugly. I got away with it in this part because the lines in the background are very thin and you can barely see the texture of these blocks above them, but in the next part, the lines are very thick. Alright, I've went and reverted this to layer 12 and I've also went and changed these two blocks to Z order 5. There we go. You just see it looks a lot more smooth right there. Alright, I'm taking yet another break. I'm going to show you how the level looks in its entirety so far, and then I'll decorate the final 2 parts of the level. Okay, so I just found out that my mic was off when I was building some of the stuff in this part. I used this chart right here that I didn't delete when I was making the designs to make these long, ropey, chainy looking things. They just cycle through 16 to 20. I also added these objects as a base for the portals and the orbs, and then I went and changed the top layer of the mask to B3 so that these could be blending without any issues. The small spikes have 18 on the detail, and the big spikes have 20 on the detail, and they all fall into 331. The song has two very distinct beats, like a ch-ch, and I want to make a pulse that turns the spikes on and off to different colors. Using main only and detail only, we can manipulate the spike to make only the outline pulse a color, or only the detail pulse a color, or both, which is what I'm going to do. The main is going to black and the detail is going to white. Then I'm also going to go and change the object line to black. Let's test it out. There we go. Nice sync. Doesn't really affect much, but it's a subtle pulse. I like that. I think it works. It doesn't distract from the gameplay. Very cool, very nice. To the end, I was looking at this part and I was thinking, what's missing? And then I realised there's no saws. Only this part of the level has saws, nothing else. I've added some saws and they also follow the 331 group pulse. Some of them look a little bit out of place, but with a little bit of decoration to bring them in, I think they will look pretty decent. I kind of like this decoration I've put on it. I'm using the hexagons, I've also got these squares, and it all follows the 331 pulse, as you can see right there. I want to link some more aspects of the decoration together, so I'm going to be using a big hexagon on its side for the background of the arrows, and then I'm going to be using this block right here, which is going to be on white to link to the middle of these saws. I think that will work, but I'm going to put it on 331, so it will pulse white. In fact, I'm going to use this object instead because it's a much more clear arrow. Alright, there we have our arrows. And bang, I think this part is nearly done. There's a couple more areas that I do need to sweep up on, but I'm liking how patchy it feels with the big hexagons and the big saws. Those stars should not be sitting above that pulse. That is outrageous. Part of me just wants to leave the end like this. I wasn't a fan of the structures that I did in episode 1. I kind of want to just have them really plain and simple. And then what we do is we select all. We set to group 333. That is a very nice group to end off with. We just stick an alpha trigger at the end. 333. 0 opacity. Bang, right there. That is the level done in my eyes. I'll show you the full thing, and then you've got to wait until episode 7 when I get a couple of playtesters in and make a couple of changes, blah blah blah. So thank you very much for watching Build Week. I hope you learned something. I hope you enjoyed the experience. Have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome to day 7 of Build Week, the absolute finale, the day that the level gets released. I've been tweaking this level since I finished recording day 6. I've spoken to a couple of playtesters, namely Zippix, Sharkery and Lev. I gave the level to Zippix first, who basically just told me to tweak the gameplay a whole lot because it felt more like an 8 or 9 star than a 7 star. There was a couple of issues with visibility, stuff like slopes, stuff like falling through the level, hard to sight read, and also some placement issues with saws. Move the saws down at the end of the wave, as you can see. I've fixed all of the first 5 points. I haven't changed the 6th point yet. I planned on doing it in this video, and I totally deleted the end ship after Sharkery kind of slammed me for it. So I watched Zipix and Harry S play this live on a Discord live stream. They didn't seem to have many issues sight reading the gameplay, though I may change the position of the mask slightly in this video to make it clear to see. The other problem that Zipix had with the level that I didn't speak about was the fact that these little grass arrows that I added in this UFO could be confused as places to click, but instead I just changed these circles so that they are bigger. They used to be 0.5 scale, but now they are on 1, and you'll notice as I'm playing the level right here that the end now cuts off at the end of the cube. There's no more ship, and yeah, just like that, I fixed everything that Zipix wanted. He said the colors were a little bit weird at times, but they weren't too bad. But I do agree that this middle cube is a little bit empty. Part of it is sticking to that void idea, but I do think there could be a couple more details added, so here we go. Gonna go the extra mile and just delete those spikes right there. Go to the mask level and just delete some blocks right here. Add this little glow thing on the top, and also just straight up copy this spike straight out of its place onto there. That'll work, and there we go. I've just added a spike and the little glow piece on top. Zipix said his favorite part was the wave, so I'm going through it right now while I get to the cube transition. There we go. If I put don't fade on everything, I think that'll be quite solid. It's a lot better than it was. Sharkery basically said that from the wave onwards, the level begins to lose its cohesion altogether, although it has a couple of links between parts with decorations and colors. He also told me that the colors in this UFO part are kinda ugly, which Zipix then contested in the call saying they looked nice, which honestly left me quite conflicted. So what I did, I went into this pulse right here, and this used to fade back out at this point, but then I extended it all the way to the edge of the ship part to then fade out during the cube. And then I deleted the last chip because he said it was bad. In fact, he said it would benefit the level more if it was removed, so I did. And yeah, that was Shane basically done. There wasn't really much action to take from his because I gave him the fixed copy after Zipix told me to fix all the gameplay, blah blah blah. So how I did this, you'll see I've got a bunch of copies right here. Basically, I gave the original copy to Zipix, fixed up from what he said, and then I gave it to Sharkery, fixed up a couple of things after what he said, and then gave it to Lev, which I'm going to get onto now. First off, Lev says the level is nice, but should include more white in the beginning, which I'm going to go ahead and do right now. So I've noticed that the orbs are pretty plain in this level, so I'm going to go ahead and give them a little bit more to them using these little triangle blocks right here on white. I'm also going to go and copy these values from the inside rings. Maybe I could space this out. There, I've made it a double triangle under the orb. I feel like that's pretty neat. I can't really use it on this one, so it's only going to get used twice, which is this yellow orb and this purple orb back here. I guess I could use it with the saws as well. It does look a little bit weird, but I could give it that 258 group that sets it down a little bit in opacity, but then that gets rid of the white. Alright, let's test this. Hopefully it's not too clustered. You know what? That does actually add a little bit to the level, but I feel like it does still need more white. I've went and given every single arrow in this part that tells you to jump a group, starting off with 336 and ending with 347. Just adding a pulse that fades it to white in 0.05 seconds and then fades it off for 1. It's pretty subtle, but it's a free way to get some more white into the level. I had a thought while I was aligning some pulse triggers. What if I varied this up by just putting a single triangle above the saws instead of a double? And I think it's worked. I am now satisfied with the amount of white in this section. I've got to ease in that white usage, you know. So it starts off with a little bit of white and then it gets more and more. Lev also told me that it's hard to see the top structures while you're upside down in the robot, which I will use an image to show. When you're going through this part of the robot, the vortex is still very young, so it's in the very middle of the level. It doesn't reach this point. So these are very dark. But I'm not going to change that because I do think it kind of adds to the void feeling I was going for on that robot when the song quietens down and becomes a bit more spacey. And then basically he told me to tamper with the circuit blocks in the UFO part. He's talking about these blocks right here, because the base is very boring. I could set it to transparent and use a black base, so it's just these patterns showing up. Because if I add a black base, you see the difference between these block designs. What I kind of want to do instead is make a small pattern that would just fit right on the inside like this. Kind of like that. But I don't know, because the outlines vary in their size a lot, which is another thing he told me. You can see there's a double outline right here and a single one there. But I guess that kind of adds charm to it. I really don't know about adding these things. I tried adding some black glow. Nah, I don't like it. I don't know if I like the black base. I kind of like the charm of just having it a simple circuit board design. I don't know, because it kind of gets colorized behind it. And it does kind of make the background come into the blocks too, which I like. So I think I'm going to keep that. And on that note, that means that Trip Trippy is finally complete. 33,413 objects across 10 copies. I even deleted my actual copy once by accident because I played a level request in between, and then I had it in that mentality that I was just going to go and delete the level like that. I've spent countless hours putting this together, editing it, organizing it to be uploaded in the span of a week, so I'd really appreciate it if you could like the video, share the series, go play the level because it's about to get released as soon as I verify it on this premiere. Here we go, guys. We are going into Trip Trippy. We are going to verify it with the coin right now on the premiere. I'm excited. It sucks because I'm making this video a week in advance. So I won't be able to release this for a whole week, but I will have it verified, sat there, ready to go. The suspense will be killing me as I'm uploading these videos. But here we go. We're getting far. We're about to go and attempt to get the coin. Oh yeah, there we go. We got the coin first try. Zippix had a little bit of trouble when he was playing it. No! Oh my god. We got it again. Attempt 2. Let's go. I will be leaving a clean, no mic recording of this at the end of the video if you wish to see it in its full form without me yabbering on in the background. But I think we're about to verify the level right here. We're about to get to the last cube. Almost died in that ship, but here we go. We're about to pass the last cube part right now. This is the end of build week. Let's go. Trip Trippy is verified. Clean black screen ending. Here it is. Trip Trippy. What do I add the description as? Here's the stuff. The description is A up. We're going to request 7 stars. Copy. Password is 5555. There you go. That is it. We're going to share the level. If you are watching the premiere right now, I have just uploaded the level. Obviously, I can't do it right now because this is pre-recorded, but it is out right now. Thank you so very much for tuning into this series every day this week, giving me feedback. Thank you to my playtesters, Zippix, Sharkery, and GD Lev. You've helped out a lot with episode 7 and also polishing the level. This has been an absolute challenge for me to put together. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you for watching this series. Have a good day. Wow, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to another Geometry Dash video. This is a follow-up to my Build Week series that you might have seen in the past week somehow, whether it be through my own videos, the level itself on the servers, which has almost 40,000 downloads, which is just nuts, or the Vibrant upload on his channel. I do have plans to bounce from this and make building videos, since it's pretty clear that you guys like them, but first I want to round off the series and go into this level once again with an open mind, giving my final thoughts and honest opinion on it, like an evaluation essentially. First of all, I would like to point out that I made this level in a totally different fashion to how I would normally make a level, because I thought it would be much better for a series if I had stuff in a round robin method instead of finishing a part and moving on. For this, I built the layout, effects, designs and decorations separately, as you saw in the videos, which resulted in the later areas of the level feeling a lot more rushed than the earlier parts, because every time I got round to decorating these parts, I'd already sifted through the other 5 parts before it, which made me quite burnt out. If we look at the actual decoration and designs in the last part without the blue filter above it, or the colour changes that spruce it up, you'll see that it's actually very ugly. Because I was having trouble making this background effect fit in, and this part seems quite loose and frail to me overall, because it doesn't have the same coverage with these ground spikes as the previous part because of the big long structures and the non-linear gameplay. It just didn't let me use these spikes to cover up the dead spaces because you're moving up and down too much. I'm pretty sure you can tell that I'm not really a fan of the ending, and I think it takes away from the quality of the level overall. A redeeming factor in this part for me is the transition in and out, because I was able to spruce up the swampy colours with that big blue pulse on the transition, and the white circle above the player keeps the vision good as well. Speaking of transitions, I was never really a fan of the transition going into the ship in the very beginning. I wanted to add more to it, but I knew that if I did, the other transitions would also need more added to them. And I knew that that could lead me down a lane of some transitions being more climactic than others, which just isn't what I want because the song doesn't pick up at all, and there's no speed changes in the level to sort of reflect that. The first part of the level was the only part I'd really planned out in my mind in full, since I'd streamed a few weeks ago making a part with the same concept. However, I knew that I could make multiple effects with similar layering formats using the same colour scheme, so I made this colour scheme stick all the way through, which is something I don't really do very often in a level. This middle robot was intended to be a break from the colour scheme, as I tried to incorporate a lot more black and white to bring in this void idea that you see in this ball section right here with the text that says void. Everything goes to that blue shade. The void was supposed to suck all the colour away from the level, but I must admit this wasn't executed very well because the wave right after is way too colourful for this idea to be precedented, so it just seems a little bit out of place and takes away from the cohesion a lot. I also try to do something quirky at the same time using a lot of yellow that faded in and out, and the difference in saturation is honestly pretty ugly. I don't even know why I kept the level like this, but it's here. If I was to remake this part right now, I would add a lot more colour to make the experience a little more trippy, like the name suggests, and I feel as if this part has missed potential due to this. The structure types allowed for the most variation in the design, but then I instead masked the designs, so the part is really strange without much consideration for designs or making the part whole or in place. Also, I used a lot of white in the part before, which makes the drained colour in the robot section even less effective, as the difference isn't as exaggerated. Sure, doing this made the level flow a little bit better, but the original idea was stifled, and I just think that the whole part right here is just messy. I just realised that when I remade this part after deleting it by accident, I forgot to flip the top part of this white screen. I knew there was something missing about this part when I remade it, and it's because I didn't flip the top. I've just went and fixed that. I'll go and update it right now. The wave part is honestly my favourite part though. It was my first time experimenting with a coloured mask, and the switch from black to blue overall here was one of the best decisions I've ever made making a level, as it tied the level together a lot more, since the mask in the beginning made the cube and ship look blue too, and the colour scheme was just strengthened overall. I was kind of worried that the designs were too chunky here, and I wasn't really sure about these pulses initially, but I think they make up for the lack of movement, and the moving vortex in the background worked a lot better than I was expecting. It just makes this part a lot more interesting with the whole mask and the different colours within it. I'll also show a picture of my desktop background right now. This wave was actually designed and decorated with just random ideas, so I'm really surprised that it came out so strong, in fact being some people's favourite part of the level, including my own. This cube transition is weak, I'm not gonna lie. The only acceptable part about this is the rippling vortex I made by accident with a little bit of bounce easing when it moves back to the center. This is why I just tell people to experiment when they ask for building advice, because experimentation can honestly save the level. I should have followed Lev's advice in this UFO section, spicing up the circuit blocks a little bit somehow, because I do think they're a little bit boring, despite my excuses in the finale. The varied outlines don't treat the designs very well either, but I do like the color loops, which is something else I just randomly included. Here is something else that saved this level. As you can see, these color loops right here change the design constantly, which again makes up for the lack of movement here. Something I can take away from this level building experience is that I need to plan for movement a lot better, because a lot of this level is actually static and it just relies on the effects and the visuals to keep it alive, like the pulses and color changes and stuff. I need to re-verify this level with the new addition on the top with the flipped white glow, which means I'm going to go and have to get the coin at the top of the wave section, which received a bronze award from Viperin on his upload. Basically, this coin has nothing to it, but I just suck at getting it. There we go. I've already expressed my disgust with these last two parts. They're just bad. The opacity on this filter at the end just makes this part so lifeless. A common complaint with this level is the visibility, which I tried to tackle with the transitions towards the end with the circle method I mentioned earlier. I also showed the structure outlines on T3 above the sweeping screens that go in between the transitions. The beginning effect obscures the blocks quite a bit. Something I did consider doing was flipping the masks so the opposite sides are obscured, which would allow the gameplay to be read a lot easier. In fact, I'll show you one thing I tried to do. I tried to take this, copy paste it and flip it on the other side too, so that there was more than one part to the effect. Let me show you real quick. This is what I initially wanted to do with the beginning, which is just kind of ridiculous because it leaves a big dead zone on the left hand side of the screen where nothing is happening. But it looks pretty cool, right? I don't know. Maybe if this level was like a 4-star or something with really easily sight-readable gameplay, I might have tried that. But it's a 7-star, so I can't really do that. The gameplay got nerfed a small bit while I was talking to Zipix when we were playtesting. It's more 6-star than 7-star if we're talking about a pure layout, but when the effects are added, it becomes a 7-star for sure, because you have to react quite quickly, especially in areas like the ship section, because the visuals may catch you off guard. I don't rate this level very highly on my catalogue, perhaps because I've looked at it way too much in building, video editing, and reviewing it now. I did make a video explaining my thoughts on my other levels, and I'm hoping to bring out a video detailing my thoughts on Come Back to Earth soon. I don't know, there's just something about this level that I don't really like in comparison to levels like Come Back to Earth and Yob. This level could have definitely been longer, but I found it quite difficult to transition away from the final cube since the transition is very harsh. The overlay makes that part very dense, which isn't really something I can build another part right after a round, because it would just feel out of place if I tried to replicate that again. I'd like to think it's an okay level. I mean, it does have its ups and downs. Some parts are very empty, but I do hope it has enough charm to keep it going. I hope it's refreshing as a pure effect level, because most effect levels nowadays are tied into modern style, and they all just kind of feel the same. So I kind of wanted to be bold with this and make a pure effect level with just lots of different out of the ordinary styles into one. I hope you enjoyed Build Week plus this little extra addition on the end as a review. I haven't really acknowledged the success of Build Week so far. Each episode has like 7,000 or 8,000 views by now. Day 1 definitely has well over 10,000. And I just want to say thank you for 6,000 subscribers. It's quite funny because I started Build Week with the 5,000 subscribers special in mind, and we got 1,000 subscribers within that week alone. So, thank you for watching this little review. Now that it's been exactly a week since release, I want to know what you think, so leave a like and a comment with your thoughts. I'm going to go ahead and like my own level. But yeah, I'm interested. Tell me what you think, and have a good day.